When I say I don't like suburbs, I want to make myself clear. I don't like the car-dependent ones. I grew up in a suburb of Denver, Colorado named Green Valley Ranch, and while I do like Denver as a city, I do not care for my childhood suburb. It wasn't a bad neighborhood in a unique way. It shares the same problems as typical suburbs do. It is a massive expanse of single-family homes that is devoid of substance beyond bike trails, a golf club, and some parks. Of course, if this limited selection didn't suffice, or if you lived too deep in the suburban neighborhood to walk to anything, you needed a car. It is rather absurd when you think about it. If someone wants to get a coffee or a hot chocolate, the more cultured beverage, why should they get into their car, drive to the nearest Starbucks, get into the drive-thru, order, and drive back home? Why not have several cafes within the neighborhood that people walk to? If someone needs to get groceries, why should they have to go through the same process to get to a grocery store? Why not have smaller stores dotted around where people lived? Suburbs like Green Valley Ranch are ubiquitous throughout the United States, so this is a fairly common experience. However, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying suburbia as a concept is bad. I recognize that people want to live in less dense areas, but the lower density shouldn't come at the cost of something as basic as walkability. Seattle is lucky enough to have plenty of almost good suburbs. When a suburb has contiguous sidewalks, calm traffic, nice places to pass through, and transit access, it could be an adequate place to live. However, as nice as these suburbs are, they are generally missing one thing required for a truly great suburb: corner stores and neighborhood cafes. Fortunately, there are some exceptions that provide meaningful insight to how much better a neighborhood can become when shops and cafes are placed right at people's fingertips. On the corner of East Valley Street and 26th Avenue is a shop called Mount Bagel. You'll never guess what they sell here. On top of it is someone's house. When looking at King County's Parcel viewer, we can see that this lot is zoned for both retail and an apartment. This building was originally constructed in 1910, and it used to be a grocery store. The zoning was never updated, so when it was sold to new owners, they were able to open a small bagel shop within the neighborhood. Whenever you find a neighborhood cafe or a corner store in Seattle, this will likely be the story. The building was built nearly a century ago for a mixed-use purpose, the old zoning was never updated, and new owners were able to take advantage of it by opening a shop on the same lot as their home. This is the case for Volunteer Park Cafe, Irwin's Bakery and Espresso, 7 Market Cafe, Ross Park Convenience Store, Dern Good Grocery, Mabel, Golden Wheat Bakery, Lighthouse Roasters, and the list goes on. The list doesn't go on for that much longer, but I'm sure there are some other examples that I missed. In a way, they represent a bygone era of when shops and residential homes were integrated within a neighborhood. Neighborhood cafes and corner stores are invaluable because they help ensure basic amenities are within walking distance, and they help support a wide variety of local businesses. Nat Henry, director of Henry Spatial Analysis, recently released a great tool that helps visualize how many amenities are within walking distance in different cities and suburbs. This tool was a tremendous help in tracking down other neighborhood cafes and corner stores for this video, so it was great timing. I decided to look at clusters of libraries, supermarkets, convenience stores, and coffee shops. North Seattle is definitely the more suburban part of town, but thanks to these neighborhood cafes and stores, the suburbs are still somewhat walkable. It's quite the contrast from my childhood suburb of Green Valley Ranch, with little to nothing to offer among the swaths of single-family homes. Although this map isn't too accurate because it is missing the public library, but I don't think adding that one data point would have a substantial impact on the map. This should help give an idea of how much easier it may be to live car-free in the suburbs around Seattle's downtown versus a suburb like Green Valley Ranch. People like to argue that they need their cars to do all sorts of little things, but not every trip to a store is to restock a pantry or to move furniture. Sometimes it is a quick trip to grab a missing ingredient for dinner, a snack run before heading to the local park, or a store run to grab some school supplies. By integrating smaller stores within walking distance of these neighborhoods, people can access basic necessities and other goods without driving to a big box store in order to buy them. Having cafes and libraries within a neighborhood also means there are more places that function as a social hub. The term coined to describe these places is the third place. Basically, the first place is where you live, the second place is where you work, and the third place is where you hang out and socialize. In Green Valley Ranch, there was a third place with a local library, but it was more tailored for the after-school crowd, so it's not really an appropriate third place for people outside that age demographic. Allowing other kinds of development such as bars and cafes could help create a third place for an older demographic, so people don't miss out on social opportunities later in their life. There's something about seeing other people around gathering in front of a place like this that makes a neighborhood feel inviting. It's a part of a concept called placemaking. The shops and cafes gives outsiders a reason to visit, so it's not just a place to pass through. There's a greater sense of community when regulars and outsiders have a focal point to gather and socialize. These third places also make suburbia feel more unique and memorable. When I was living in Denver, my parents and I would frequently eat breakfast at a downtown restaurant called Dixon's. The restaurant closed down a long time ago, but we still have memories of that place. When it comes to Green Valley Ranch, on the other hand, there weren't a whole lot of restaurants that made the neighborhood feel one of a kind. There's nothing special about being a short drive away from a Walmart, McDonald's, and a Chipotle. They're everywhere. If one of these stores closed down, chances are another one won't be too far away. Meanwhile, losing Irwin's Neighborhood Bakery or 7 Market would be devastating. Their contribution to the neighborhood in terms of charm and character is almost irreplaceable. Part of the reason car-dependent suburbs are filled with the same handful of franchises is because they are the only companies who can afford to build something in the commercial lots. This only contributes to the overwhelming sameness of these nondescript car-dependent suburbs. Simply allowing people to build cafes, shops, and bars in their residential neighborhoods could function as the catalyst that allows more unique local businesses to flourish. Single-family homes tend to conform to setback requirements and minimum lot sizes. This means there's a lot of space behind and in front of the building that could, theoretically, be used for a private business. Golden Wheat Bakery is a great example of this. The bakery itself is the building, and behind it is someone's house. Not everyone is going to want a front yard or a backyard, so why not let them renovate the space into a neighborhood business? It doesn't have to be drastic as building a whole new building on the lot either. Someone's garage could become a significant business within the neighborhood. Homes in car-dependent neighborhoods have a tendency to look less like a house and more like a multi-car garage with a dwelling attached. However, that garage can serve as space to get a business started. A good example of a garage business is Yonder Cider, which originally operated near the intersection of Northwest 78th Street and 1st Avenue Northwest in Ballard. People would walk up to a counter that was built in the garage to buy a pack of cider. Unfortunately, one person complained to the city because it was operating on a low-traffic street, the lines would block sidewalks, and it was near 2 schools and 2 churches. At the time, there were various restrictions to operating a business in a residential neighborhood. The building could not look like a business from the outside, and customer visits have to be by appointment. So, if Yonder Cider wanted to continue operating, it would need to close its garage door and only open it for appointments. Luckily, City Council moved to reduce these restrictions in the Bringing Businesses Home Bill. This was originally a temporary change, but it was made permanent, so other people can start their own garage business just like Yonder Cider did. Now, Yonder Cider operates in a taproom with bail breaker, but the walk-up garage was still an important step for them to get started. Despite the benefits of integrating cafes and stores in the neighborhood, there hasn't been a major push to allowing new ones to be built. So far, we've only seen baby steps in the right direction. The lousy OneSeattle Plan, for example, makes some changes to allow neighborhood corner stores. If I could open up a corner store, it would stock Dr. Pepper and only Dr. Pepper. You know why? Because I am tired of going to restaurants and finding out that they do not have Dr. Pepper. Everywhere I go, it's always Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, Jones Soda, but never Dr. Pepper. If you know of any places that actually have Dr. Pepper that's not already on this list, please let me know. I am dying to find out. Unfortunately, the OneSeattle plan probably won't get me one step closer to this dream. New corner stores would, quite literally, be corner stores, so they could only be built on corner lots. If you own a home that is not quite on a corner, and you want to start your own bakery or sell sundries, too bad, I guess. They would also require 3 off-street parking spaces, which is absurd because the whole point of them being neighborhood stores is so people can just walk to them. It is rather telling that the new corner stores aren't even expected to come from new developments either. The OneSeattle plan points out that it would result through conversion of existing residential structures, including re-establishing commercial uses in structures previously used as a business. Considering what I said about Mount Bagel earlier, this doesn't sound any different than the current policy. I genuinely have trouble wrapping my mind around why there isn't a bigger push to allow more neighborhood cafes and corner stores. Scattered around Seattle are glimpses of what life could be like if the suburbs embraced neighborhood cafes and stores. People want to live in nice places. This is reflected in the ridiculous price of housing in the walkable neighborhoods around Seattle. It is absurd to create legislation that prevents desirable suburbs like this from being built. I understand not everyone wants to live in a dense city, but there is no legitimate argument that favors car-centric suburbs like this over walkable human-centric suburbs like this.